Dude, that makes me mad. Like, dude, why?
It turns out that this lady, those kids were not her kids.
What the heck?
That's why she wanted to pay everything in cash, because if she paid anything with a credit card, that's how she was going to get tracked down.
Hoy No Más Podcast. Clips.
So this lady comes in. She's like, oh, can I have a cabin? And it was un pedo because she didn't have a credit card. She wanted to pay everything cash. So the minute that she walked in, I had to take care of her. But I swear to God, the minute she walked in through the door, she gave me a weird vibe. And she smelled.
Okay.
And she was like an older white lady, like in her 50s, 60s. And she looked like a cat lady because she smelled like litter box. So anyways, I'm like taking care of her, and then I'm dealing with all this shit because she doesn't have a credit card. She wants to pay everything cash. So then me and Kevin are going back and forth because we're like, oh, we don't want to be like, oh, you can't stay, but you don't have a credit card. Da, 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 da. Long story short, she ends up staying. I think we ended up taking a credit card. And then she stayed there because they had a rule that you couldn't stay in a cabin for more than 2 weeks. I don't remember why. Because then the city would consider you like a resident or something like that. I don't remember. But it was a rule that you couldn't stay in the cabin for more than 2 weeks. So then she ends up moving from a smaller cabin. The smaller cabins didn't have a bathroom, to a bigger cabin that they had a bathroom like and everything. Like glamping, I think they call it. She gives me the weird vibe since day one. When I'm working there, because I literally work 5-6 days out of the week, I obviously kept seeing her walk into the office because it was an office and it was a little store. And she had two kids with her. So I thought a lady in her 60s, I'm like, oh, those are her grandkids. And they kind of like, the kids were like white. They looked like they could be 6 and 8, and they were like blue eyes and everything. I'm like, okay, like those are her grandkids. And they would call her Ma. And the kids, they look dirty. Like if she looked dirty, the kids looked even more dirty. Like las uñas, like they had like mugre underneath them. Like they smelled even more than she did. Like you could tell that the kids were not well taken care of. And then she would go into the office and like buy them like maruchanes and stuff like that for them to eat, or candy. So long story short, she started giving everybody in the office the weird vibe. And she ended up moving to the bigger cabin. And then one day, one of the housekeeping ladies, she came back and she's like, oh, this lady has cats, right? Because she had animals staying with her. And we're like, yeah. And she's like, because there's a mess in the cabin and there's feces, but it's not animal feces. It's like human feces, like all over the beds and stuff. And we're like, ew. So they're just not, se están haciendo del baño in the actual like bed sheets. It turns out that this lady, those kids were not her kids.
What the heck?
And this is something that till this day, it haunts me. And now because I have a baby and I'm like, dude, like, this is why you gotta trust your gut instinct. It turns out that this lady had been on the run because she kidnapped those kids from some other, she wasn't even from this state. She had like plates from another state. So it turns out that this lady was on the run with those kids that were not her kids. And I guess these kids were like, I don't know who she took them away from, but she had these kids and she was on the run from another state. And I guess that's why she wanted to pay everything in cash, because if she paid anything with a credit card, that's how she was going to get tracked down. Yeah. And she kept saying like, I remember she would like say weird stories, and she'd be like, oh, my husband, he makes really good money. Okay, he worked he wasn't a pilot, but he wasn't like, the tower that controls the planes that like take off and land and stuff like that.
Yeah, the control tower?
Yeah. And she would always like be saying random stories, but it turns out that those kids were not her kids, that those kids were taken away from like their actual mom. And we don't even know if those kids were even siblings or if they were like from different moms.
How'd you guys find out?
Because like this lady obviously started giving us the weird vibe to everybody. And then we're like, oh my gosh, like maybe we should call CPS on this lady because that's how bad it got. But I think at that point, nobody in the office wanted to be like, if we fuck up, like it's going to be on us. And then she's going to maybe find out that it was one of us in the office that called CPS on her. So I feel like we all were on the same page that there was something off. But none of us wanted to be like, I'm going to be that person that's going to, if we're wrong, like I'm going to be the one that's going to get the finger pointed at.
Damn, that sucks, dude.
So the reason why we found this out was because CPS went to the campground.
So who called? Do you know?
I guess somebody else that was staying there called CPS on the lady, and that's how CPS ended up going to the campground and looking for her. But by the time that CPS got to the campground, that lady had already dipped.
Oh.
And after that, oh, dude, I'm getting fucking chills. After that, she never went back. So we don't know where she went with the kids.
What the heck?
And I remember after CPS went and they were looking for her, she called once or twice, like asking if she could stay. But I feel like we kind of tried like for her to come back. But I feel like she knew that they were probably onto her already and she dipped.
Oh, dude, man, that sucks, man. Like, you guys could have caught her.
I know. And that's why I'm telling you, like, trust your gut instinct. Because now I think about it and I'm like, dude, like, if one of us would have called, we were all onto her. So we were all right. We all felt something was wrong. And it's like, dude, those kids could have made it back to their mom.
Dude, that makes me mad. Like, dude, why? But I get it, right? At times you just like, or whenever you see an incident out in the streets and maybe two people are going at it and you're like, I don't want to get involved or whatever, right? So I can see why you guys wouldn't want to do it. But then at the same time, it's like, fuck, you guys could have saved these two kids. Hopefully the kids are fine, you know?
Yeah. But man. I do remember.
But there's no video footage? Like,
in the office, there was no cameras. We had a sign that there was cameras, but there was no cameras.
Dang, dude. Because it's like, oh, there's video footage. You guys could have put it out, like, everywhere and to be on the lookout, especially the plates of the trailer or whatever she was driving. Man, that sucks, dude. It gets me like, why didn't you guys do anything? But I get it at the same time. So
I don't know. That's like a story that's always been in the back of my mind because I'm like, dude, like.
And you never like saw a follow up or if she ever got caught or anything.
I found out about it because when we would do shift change in the afternoon, that AM shift would let us know everything that happened in the morning. So I was off for like 2 days, and then when I went back to work, that night shift, the morning shift had, they had been like interrogated by CPS. So they told us like the whole story rundown. They were like, oh, you remember so and so? Like, yeah, it turned out that those were not her kids.
But wait, who knew? CPS knew?
So somebody from the campground, a guest that was staying, they called CPS on the lady.
But how'd they find out that those kids were not her kids?
Because they had been looking for her for a while from another state. So I guess como que ya le habían puesto el dedo from another state that she had kidnapped those kids. Yeah. And she was on the run with them.
Oh, shit.
And that's why they were trying to track her down. And then when... I don't know if the person that called CPS, they took a picture of her.
Yeah.
Or the plates. I don't know those details. But point is, she dipped.
It's a good story that he shared. Well, not a story, but an incident, right? Who knows? I'm even curious if she ever got caught. Maybe we can look it up
old.
later.
I mean, around that time, this was like what? That was 18, 6 years ago, 7, I don't know.
So she was pretty old?
She was pretty old already. She was like in her 60s.
Oh, shoot. And it was just her and the two kids?
Yeah. The husband, she would always talk about the husband, but he was never around. Who knows if she even had a husband and if it was even true.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe she wasn't in the right mental state, you know?
Yeah.
Hoy No Mas Podcast. Clips for full podcast link can be found on description below.
Hoy no más.